Hi, this is Eric Martin with BoardGameGeek. I'm here with Keith Bloom from L4 Studios, looking at WarQuest from Glenn Drover.
Yes.
It's a big box that lays out an even bigger board with tons of stuff on it, which is kind of a Glenn Drover trademark.
That's true.
I think that's to be expected.
Some things
from him.
don't change. That's right.
Okay. Maybe get an overview here of what we're doing with all these people.
Yes, for sure.
Creatures.
Going to war, pretty much.
Okay.
Well, Glenn, his influence for this game was a couple of the older TSR games. Divine Right was one that kind of inspired him as far as the richness of the world. And he definitely ran with that. And so the scenario is that this region has been at war for 200 years, and the kingdoms of man have basically wiped themselves out, driven these other races, which are what you see here, out to the periphery. So you have different locations where you would actually go to recruit troops. Your goal in the game, you take the role of a warlord, and you have a fixed number of turns. Your goal is to acquire the most victory points.
Okay.
The way you do that is you can go on quests, you can go on conquests, which could be something like reuniting a particular kingdom, engaging in a battle that you're victorious in. You also can go into combat and get victory points that way, and that's where these figures definitely come into play. On your turn, there's a lot of material here, but one of the things that I really like about this game is that with all the components, it's still very much a game that I think is intuitive. On your turn, you basically have just a finite number of options. You can move, you can take control of a region. Those who remember Conquest of the Empire, you can spend a time in a particular location and take control of that region. You can tax. Here's an example of a city that has a number underneath it. So you can tax and get that amount of gold. Gold is relevant because you can acquire power cards on your turn, which are... Yes. We have two different types of coins. There are about 60 of them. So you can buy items that can help you in combat or when you're going on quests. These come out on a sideboard. We have a deck of, I believe, 50 of those. I'm going by memory on that. And this is the gold cost, and in some cases they have, if it's a spell, there's something that you might have to expend additional gold while you're in combat. Okay. So that's another thing you can do. You can recruit on your turn. If you're going to recruit, you have to go to an appropriate location. I don't know if it makes sense to move the board, but the different races, and I'll give you an example.
We got
the elves are up there.
The starting lands here, the goblins are here.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example of a couple of the different races. Is that okay with the way they're tipped?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to get a satyr out there. So you start the game with an army. If you wish to play a beginner version, the army is assigned to you. You get one of each unit. There are 2 units per race in the base game. There are 5 different races. For advanced players who want to kind of experiment with some different strategies, you get a set amount of gold that you can use to recruit your initial army. Each race has a different ability level. When we were first designing the game, Glenn envisioned having a game that was streamlined. And we kickstarted this last year, and the feedback that we got from the people who were backing the game and expressing a lot of interest in it was that they wanted the combat to be more robust. So with that type of feedback, we actually added it so that the races all have additional benefits.
Right.
The knobs in the front of these guys, which are what you see here, tell you how many attack dice that are rolled. The knobs in the back tell you how many hits they can take. So the way combat works is you have a battle board. As you assemble your armies, you would have your melee troops in the front rank and your ranged troops in the rear rank. Usually your army is going to have more figures in it, but in the interest of time, we won't fill all those in. Right. But if you take a turn and you are co-located, you're in a region with another player, you immediately go into combat. That's not something that's an option.
Right.
So as you engage in battle occurs simultaneously, and the rear ranks go first. Glenn actually just stepped up, so we can have him come over and join us if you want. You want to slide in? We're just coming. Yeah, come on. We were just talking about combat, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to slide this way?
Yeah. There.
There are lots of cables on.
Sorry I'm late.
No,
I was on a Twitch feed that went a little long.
Okay.
So we were just talking about the combat, where when you finish co-located, how the defender will roll the dice first, but the ranged combat is handled simultaneously. So you roll the dice. The skull is a hit. The flag is a retreat. So in this case, with the ranged, if I would turn him so that you can see that correctly. In the case of the ranged attacks, this particular very small army would roll 3 dice, and in that case, the other troops on this side would have 2 retreats, and then so the defender or the attacker would then make his roll. That damage is assigned. If you have more troops than can fit in the ranks, your maximum, as you see on this board, is 5 per rank. If you lose somebody from that rank, you can fill them in from the reserves after the attacks are resolved, after the ranged, and then after the foot or melee. Then once that round is done, the attacker decides whether he or she wants to retreat, and the defender then makes that decision as well. So the combat is pretty structured. We like it because it's got a nice element of randomness to it, but certainly as you start to assemble your armies, you can mix and match the different types of troops. I think complement each other really well. For example, goblins, if somebody decides to retreat, the goblins that you have in your army basically run after them, so they get a parting shot. Right. As if somebody breaks off from combat.
So many of the units have special abilities added on to their combat, their normal combat, attack and defense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So having a diverse force that you've gone around the world and recruited instead of just doing all of one race gives you some combat advantages. There's an incentive to do that.
Right.
Instead of just turtle and stay in one place.
Yeah, so there were a couple things. One is to be clear that the armies aren't designed to be racially exclusive. Seems like now it's racially charged environment. But that was the idea, that this is a mercenary environment. Right. Basically, they different
hiring
factions,
based
different races.
What you want to do.
Exactly. And
it's
the races are...
It's like evil against the good. It's really all the races are just races. And they're really angry at the humans for having committed atrocities in the,
pushed them out to the periphery.
Right, they're going to go conquer the human areas of the world.
Okay.
The other thing that Glenn was kind of alluding to, which is maybe a little bit harder to see on this map, but the different races are all on the periphery. So as you wish to recruit elves, you have to go to the elf homelands. So the nature of how the map is set up, there's going to be a lot of interaction among the players. This wasn't designed to be I've got my own area that I gradually expand from. Right. There's going to be a lot of interaction, arguably as the game immediately unwinds.
Okay.
So there's quests also. So you move around the world to accomplish quests. You move around the world to recruit troops. And to then conquer and tax cities. Right. So you move to the periphery to recruit, and you move to the center to essentially conquer and tax.
Yeah.
Okay. And it definitely sounds, if you just went with one type of troop, then clearly you're going to have specific weaknesses that people can exploit based on...
Yes.
And there are actually items and magical spells that are targeted against particular races, so that would absolutely be the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now you're playing to a certain total or rounds or
it's based on number of rounds.
Okay.
So we do have events that basically are the method for keeping track of the turns that have elapsed. So
like
those were quests. The game starts, and there's actually a starting event card that's basically all quiet on the Western Front, right? So we didn't want to have something where you got nailed immediately. You've got plagues. Can be a rebellion. Here's the all quiet example. So those are the initiation for each turn.
Okay.
as to what's happening. And I think we got the quests. Oh, the conquest cards. So I mentioned that briefly at the beginning. You have in your hand, you have 2 quest cards and 2 conquest cards at all time. In addition, with the conquest, you have an end game condition, which this is marked by the star here. So every player has a goal that at the end of the game, this is kept hidden.
Right.
And so at the end of the game, in this case, this person would want to make sure that they actually have control of Volmer Keep. So as the game starts to unwind, you can kind of pay attention to what other players are maybe kind of trying to protect. And if you can go in and effectively kick them out of that location, you may be able to deprive them from an end-game conquest. The conquest cards that can be achieved during the game, I mentioned briefly, can involve reuniting a particular kingdom, and these are outlined by different colors,
right.
Or it could be something more broad as conquering a particular region or going after a particular troop type, going after satyrs, for example, something like that. So you've got different, more combat-oriented victory point options as well. So one of the things Glenn was going for when he was setting up developing the game was that he wanted to have multiple paths to victory. I think we've seen that in a lot of his more recent games, and that was a big piece that he wanted to have. And I think over the course of time, we debuted this game in its initial stages last year, but Sean and Glenn and I have worked together over the course of the year, and the final product we're extremely happy and proud of, not only with the artwork. We've got 2 really good artists who contribute to this, but how the components have come out. It was at this show where we got to see, this is a pre-production copy,
right.
Where we got to see it for the first time, and we're very pleased with how everything has come
evolved,
out.
yeah.
So, yeah.
It was a good surprise.
Yeah, it's
like,
not,
hey,
yeah,
what is it?
Yeah, right,
What does it actually look like?
Exactly.
Yep.
We actually made the decision to upgrade the map graphics as recently as December because we thought the original map was good, but it wasn't quite the vision we had. And we contacted Jared Blando, who's a phenomenal fantasy artist, and he was able to quickly, rework this world in a way that we were just blown away by.
So it's his artwork that's featured on the cards in the map, and Ralph Horsley did the cover, and it's his sketches that were used to, they were the basis for the sculpts. And those 2 artists actually have worked together previously, so I think their work complemented each other very, very nicely.
Okay. Well, super. Thanks very much for the overview. And congrats. When is it actually
We are looking at a midsummer release. So
okay.
In a perfect world, we'll have it at Origins. We'll see.
That's right.
Gen Con.
That's true. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
Thank
guys.
you.